Hello there. Happy Thursday, fellow achievers. We are live on Achievers Live, the weekly show helping you go from four-figure months to six-figure years in your online business in a way that is real, is tangible, gives you a look behind the scenes and actionable steps that you can go ahead and really bring into your business so that you don't find yourself trying to be pulled all the places and getting overwhelmed with all the stuff that's out there, and instead turning your business into an absolutely results-driven business for you. So we've been diving in this month about really how to start leveraging your launches. So I started to see across the board that people were really struggling when it came to launch time in their business. So they started seeing launches as something that is either way too overwhelming to dive into. So maybe they've consumed, different content about launches and they're like, I can never handle all of that. Especially if you don't have a team right now, it's like, oh God, I cannot handle all of those pieces. Or two, you've tried some launches in the past and it totally took over your life, your business, your energy, everything. And you're like, every time I launch in my business, it is an absolute life takeover. So you kind of get nervous before launch. So you're kind of going in with that energy of, oh my God, this is going to take everything out of me. And if you fall into either of those two camps, one, I want to let you know, have you let me know in the comments. So has this ever happened to you where it comes to launching in your business, you have this offer that people can benefit from, but there's either this fear of going into a launch because maybe you've seen so much information out there that you're kind of confused of what is the best fit for you and your business, because all of our businesses are different. Or two, you have launched in the past and it was just this overwhelming process where it kind of took over your life and you're not really looking to recreate that for yourself again. And I would tell you, I've absolutely been in the second section of that more times than I probably care to admit, especially in the beginning phases of my business, because I wanted to try all of the strategies. I can't help it, right? I'm a strategist. That's how my mind is wired. So I wanted to implement all these things that people who at the time had, 6 and 7 figure businesses that I was working towards, they had all this stuff. And I'm like, I want to do all of those things. So guess what started happening? I didn't know that, they had a team in place and they had they had more experience than I did, right? They had all these things that I didn't have at that time. And I was trying to compare myself or get myself to the wrong level, right? I just wasn't in the right phase of my business there. And that cost me a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of stress because I was just trying to do something that wasn't a right fit for my business, wasn't a right fit for where I was in that moment. And I really want to help people simplify things in their business. I mean, that's my mission so that you really can do what you set out to do in your business. And for people that I attract, it's you want more freedom in your life, personal freedom, financial freedom. You want to be able to enjoy what you've created. So you definitely aren't the type who wants to go into a launch and feel totally overwhelmed, like it's taken over every single part of your being. So what can I do? One, share my experience of what I've been through. And two, show you how you can learn from that and start to customize launching to you the same way that I do. So every launch I do is totally different. Olivia, I want total freedom. Yes, and it's possible. And I know I've definitely seen so many people across the board that they start feeling like it's impossible. They start with that belief, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm starting my business because I want this freedom. And then they start making money, right? They're starting to do these actions and that type of thing. And all of a sudden what starts to happen is you hit a point, and this is usually the point people don't talk about in business, where they're like, what did I sign up for? Because I don't feel like I have freedom at all, right? Technically I can create my own hours, but I'm using all of them for my business, right? Or, you're starting to go through these things and you're like, wait, I don't have what I want. And my mission is to give women what they really set out to do, right? In their life and have a successful business, but be able to take care of, yourself, your family, your health, like the other things that matter in your life. Your business should not be your only thing. So, in doing that is why I wanted to do this launch series. So if you didn't check out last week's video, it's here on my business page. So I just put them under Achiever Circle. So if you click on videos, you'll be able to access that. And we talked about prepping your audience before a launch. And this is just going to make it easier for you going into launch time so that you actually have people that are ready for what you're about to launch. So we talked about a couple different things as far as either building the audience that you need if your audience is too small right now for your goals, or maybe you're in a transition phase, which has happened to me in my business for sure, where yes, I had an audience, but they weren't the right audience for that offer. So I had to build a new audience. So you know that in advance. You are doing some market research with your audience to make sure that, hey, they actually want what you're about to offer, right? Like, I am not about putting in work in your business that doesn't convert for you, right? That doesn't give you the results that you want. So this helps to eliminate that by hearing from your audience. So you're doing that market research, and then you're starting to, put out content at least 30 days in advance before you go into launch so that you can see how people are engaging with that. They're getting used to talking about that topic. So it's no surprise when an offer comes out related to that. It's not like, oh, she's been talking about like horses this whole time and now she's selling me something about dogs. Like, awful example, but you know what I mean? Like, they're just not ready for it because you haven't been talking about that the entire time. So you're keeping that nice in alignment. And that's what we went over last week. So you can always go back to that video and catch that if you haven't seen that. So this week, we're going to go ahead and stack right on top of it. It's just my philosophy and business. So, it's those small things stacked up one on top of the other that get you to results. And the same thing with launching. So what I would love to hear from you, and especially if you're on the replay too, like I see these comments and I go back in to engage with you guys. So have you launched an offer in your business already? If so, how did that go? Like, just share in the comments so I can kind of get a feel for where people are and where you are in your business, because I definitely want to customize this to those that are here live, of course, but if you are on the replay, I can always pop in and, answer any questions you guys may have. So don't be afraid to share that. This is how you learn and grow. And I am absolutely happy to spend the time here on Thursdays with you guys to help you, but I can only help you if you let me know, right? If you let me know what you need. So let's talk about your custom launch plan, okay? Because there are hundreds of ways to launch in your business, right? Because there's all different types of businesses, all different types of audiences. And I know when I do one-on-one intensives for people about to go into a launch, we're like, hold on, like, I know you're seeing a lot of stuff out there and we could totally talk about those things. Like, by all means, bring all the ideas, like throw them out on the table. And then let's get down to what's the best fit for you and for your business, because you want this to feel easy, right? When you're going into your launch, yes, you're going to put in that work, but you want to make sure it's something that you are feeling good about throughout, the entire process. So the first thing we're doing with that plan is we know that we've already made sure we have the audience. We know that we already did the surveys and things like that we talked about in the last video. And now we're going to the next step. So how do we want to drive sales during this launch? So the people are there, you're okay with creating the content. Awesome. Like, let's go to the next thing. Like, what is going to be the main sales driver for you within your launch? So we have a couple different ways that we can do this, and I'm just going to kind of touch on each one of them because this will help you to see what's the best fit for you. So we have things like your social media posts. That's typically the easiest for people to do during a launch, right? Because if you're consistent in your business, you're already showing up on social media. So you already have that audience there. And maybe you're going to do something like a social media series. So a series of posts that are teaching things, two people, and this could be via video, it could be graphics, right? Like you could do this on Instagram with your graphics or videos, right? Because now we have videos over there. And essentially what you're doing is you're mapping out a series on social media of, okay, I'm going to take people through this one piece of my offer, right? Because your offer has a couple different tiers to it. I'm going to take them through this one piece. And when that series is done, I will share how they can get even more, right? The next step to this. So if you have seen things like, webinars and challenges and all that, and we'll go into those, and you're like, I just don't have the time for that right now, I just want to get this out there, then something like a social media series could be amazing for you. I've definitely done this. I haven't done it recently because I tend to do 5-day challenge. Like I said, I'll talk about that. But I've done it in the past where I took this social media series, and essentially what I did is I wrote down exactly what all of the objections were. And I started touching on every single objection, what people were feeling in general in their business, and then giving a call to action, like a step they could take each day to just change that mindset for themselves to get results. So I've done it that way. I've done it where we had a list building program and I had like a 5-day series, a social media series. I encouraged my list to go post their assignment there. I also created like an event on Facebook where they could get access to like some behind the scenes posts and tips and things like that. So you can definitely play with social media for yourself and just do like a series of posts that are around one specific topic that are a piece of your offer. So you're essentially taking a piece of your offer and putting that right there on social media. Steph, I'm doing a 3-part video series next week to lead to a webinar. Perfect, right? Because the people that are checking out that video series, it's like, well, of course I want the next step. Of course I want the webinar. And then the webinar is where you would be selling. So it's a great way to lead that already warm traffic. Or if you're using ads, then, you can retarget and all that fun stuff too, and bring them over to the webinar. And it also, I love that it's the video series because it allows them to connect with you as a person, right? Along the way. So you get to kind of use both sides of the coin as your leverage there. So of course you have that. The next thing you can do is you can do a powerful opt-in and have people go through an email funnel that's leading to your launch. So if you take, again, a piece of your offer, because one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're doing opt-ins, whether it's an opt-in for a video series or a checklist or, whatever it is, when you're doing that, if it doesn't actually relate to the offer, you don't want people signing up for something that, oh, it's just converting really well on ads, like this opt-in, everyone's joining it, but that opt-in doesn't even go with what your offer is, then we have a problem, right? Because they're coming in with a whole different need. So you're making sure everything's in alignment for yourself. So you can create a powerful opt-in and have your email funnel lead right into the launch. So if you're someone that goes, video is not like a thing for me, or social media, like my audience isn't super engaged right now on social media, we're all at different points in our business, right? Well, you can go ahead and be building your list at the same time, use your opt-in, and then lead them into a funnel that goes into your launch. So that's another way that you can be bringing people in, getting ready for when your cart does open. So again, it's no surprise to anyone. They're seeing your social media series or they've gotten your opt-in, they're interested in those things, and it leads right over to your offer. The next thing, of course, and I know Steph mentioned this, is a webinar. So if this is something that you want to implement in your business, there's people out there that are like, oh, webinars don't work anymore. Nobody joins, nobody blah, blah, blah. Everything works if you do it right, right? So like, it just depends on you and your business, and webinars absolutely still convert. So when it comes to webinars, maybe that is your driver. So you could either be doing a webinar at the end of a social media series like Steph's doing, like, hey, you lead them to the webinar, give them more value, and then you can offer your program. And then of course people are catching the replay and different things like that as well. You could be leading them just right to the webinar. So if you're leveraging ads or anything like that, then hey, like they're coming right to the webinar. Something that's worked really well for us with launching is actually having an opt-in first, so something like a checklist, something really easy to consume, and on the thank you page is the sign up for the webinar. So it allows us to get people that, hey, maybe some are only going to grab the opt-in, no problem, because they'll still go into the launch sequence, or some are going to grab that plus the webinar. So we have a way to kind of catch both types of people, because some people will show up for webinars, some people will not, and that's okay, right? So we like to catch both ways there. So if you're doing a webinar and you are giving value at the beginning, right, making sure it's something that no matter if they join your offer or not, they're getting that insane value. They're going to go ahead and go implement it themselves, totally up to them, right? Then you can pitch exactly what you have. So let me know if you guys have any questions about what we covered so far throughout this. And like I said, if you're on the replay, you can feel free to still add them below. So we have something like a social media series. You can do an opt-in to just a straight email funnel. And this is actually something I used to use to book out one-on-ones a lot, was just an opt-in right through the funnel to get on discovery calls. So it really doesn't matter what your offer is. It's which one do you want to start with for this launch of yours? And then we have the webinar. So if you are great either on video, you're totally comfortable with selling, and or you like to do slides, right? Because it just depends on your webinar style, then yes, absolutely, you can do a webinar to drive those sales. And then of course the next one is your 5-day challenge. So I just did a whole training on how I do my 5-day challenges, but it's coming down in about 45 minutes to the public. It's on this page. So you may have caught it this week about 5-day challenges. That's one of the biggest drivers of sales for my business. It's something I've used for years. So I'm just used to 5-day challenges, and I love the community that gets built in the challenge. So personally, that's something that I love. However, what you can do is you're running your 5-day challenge. Of course, you're pitching, right, at the end of your 5-day of how they can go ahead and go into the cart. So the cart opens right at the end of your 5-day challenge. If you're not getting the sales that you want, or you just want to, add an additional piece, then guess what? You can add a webinar the following week. And that can catch, more people off of a 5-day challenge. So there's so many different ways we can move these things around in a launch. And that's why I just want to kind of get your ideas going, your mind going with some ideas of different ways that you can do a launch for yourself. And it doesn't have to be well, this person only does webinars, this person only does 5-day challenge, this person no, you get to play around with all of these however you want and really customize it to you. They all work. It's just a matter of what is the best fit for you, your energy, your time, right? What you have available for yourself. Steph, for one-on-one coaching, what have you found to be the best driver? 5-day challenges work for that? Steph, to be honest, for me, what I have always seen work best for one-on-one is through my email list. So typically it's an opt-in, and then they're going through the nurture sequence, and then it leads into a discovery call. And with that discovery call, having an urgency area. So either they get a special bonus if they book the call within 48 hours, or a certain percentage off. Typically I do bonuses more than percentage off, just because obviously your time is going into one-on-one, and that has always worked really well for me. Once in a while I've done workshops, so essentially the webinar style, where I had one-on-one at the end, and that worked. But I found if I'm already converting passively through my list, then I just don't break it, or don't fix what's not broken, or whatever that quote is. Of course I can't think of it now. So yeah, that's really worked. 5 days I typically will do for a program. So anything that's program, we just launched the Achiever Circle, so it's a membership community. We did a 5-day challenge going into that. And that, that works for that type of approach. Just for me personally, and clients I've worked with, they tend to also get results with the one-on-one through the funnel. So we've just been leveraging it that way. So the 5-day challenge, we have that option. And then of course you have also, I'll focus more on my list. Yes, absolutely. And it's all about the wording, right? So creating that like urgency and things like that in your funnels. That was really a huge help for me with the, hey, you get something, this bonus when you book your discovery call, just because it's typical for people to see something and go, oh, I'll do that later, right? So it definitely helps giving that timer if you're using like Countdown Monkey or Deadline Funnel or anything like that, along with those emails. So the final thing I want to cover with you guys, and depending on your business, you may or may not be there, but again, I want to make sure you guys have the different opportunities to use is affiliates. So if you have already run this program, or maybe your affiliates are for like your one-on-one. So it could be people that it's just word of mouth. And I know a lot of people do this with their one-on-one. It's like, hey, you already have clients who have worked with you, who love you, like they're your best advocates, right? Because they've gotten results. So it could be, hey, if you personally refer someone, maybe you're giving them 10% or 20% or, whatever. If it is a program, then you have like an affiliate program tied to that. So your affiliates are out there sharing. And I'm sure you've probably seen this with bigger launches. So like 90-day year, B-School. I'm trying to think of like all the ones that you get multiple people. But the thing is, your affiliates are helping to drive those sales, right? So they are getting a percentage of your commission. However, you're also getting more people in during your launch than you would have if it was just you, because you're leveraging other people who already are passionate about what it is that you offer. Of course, the only thing I would always say with that is just make sure it's people that are already in your space. Okay, so an example of this, when we were opening the doors to Achiever Circle again on the 1st, for July 1st, but I'm implementing an affiliate program in there so that the members have a way to essentially be in there for free, right? If they have friends that they feel can benefit, then they are going to be getting a 40% commission on that. However, we made it so that you can only be an affiliate if you are in there yourself. Why? Because why would you want people sharing something that like it's not good enough for them to be in, right? But they're going to recommend it to their people. That seems kind of out of integrity, right? So you'll always see that people that are affiliates, for bigger programs and courses and, stuff like that, typically it's because it changed their life. So there's some people that just, hey, anyone can sign up to be an affiliate for my program. But honestly, I would be really hesitant to do that, only because like, how can they share their experience when they don't have one, right? And that kind of, that can be a really weird waters to navigate. So if you're using affiliates, like go back to the people who are already in your program from the last round, or have already had experience with you, and see if there's something that you want to offer them that feels good for both of you as an incentive for them to share, because that can help during the launch too. You have other people, of course, planning it in their schedule and treating it just like their own launch. So I don't affiliate launch a lot. Just because like I don't like join a lot of things, programs that have affiliates, because I'm not really like a program person. I'm more of a one-on-one. But the thing is, like the ones that have really changed, I'm happy to like put that in my launch schedule, but I'm going to treat it just like it was my own launch. So it's getting this same kind of care that we're going through together here, in the same mapping out and making sure my audience even wants this thing, right? Like I wasn't the only one excited about it. You're going through the same process. I would run a 5-day challenge, and at the end, pitch somebody else's stuff, right? And say why, right? Like why we're going in this and any bonuses I'm offering for them being a part of it. So you do have the option for affiliates as well within your launch, especially if it's something you've already launched before. So now you're just looking to like spider out to more people. So you have your social media series, you have an opt-in right to an email funnel. So you have a sales funnel leading into your launch. You have a webinar, you have a 5-day challenge, you have affiliates that you can leverage. And the beauty of this is that you can choose one of them, or you can mix them up, right? You can mix them up depending on your time or what you're seeing happening during your launch. So like I mentioned before, if you, let's say you go to your email funnel, it's opt-in email funnel, and you're like, I'm not really getting the sales that I want, which we're going to talk about that in a minute. If you're not getting the sales you want, then you know what? I'm gonna do a pop-up webinar. And I'm going to invite everyone on my list because they haven't bought, through the funnel. Maybe they just needed another touch point. So I'm going to invite them to the webinar. At the end of the 5-day challenge, maybe you want to add in a webinar. Maybe that's where you're going to drive your sales instead. Maybe you are doing this social media series and you're like, not getting a ton of engagement. You know what? I'm going to do a 5-day challenge on top of that, right? Like I'm going to invite them into one space to do this challenge instead. So you get to play around with those, but I want you to know the options that are available because you get to customize this. It is not just one set thing. And I feel like a lot of times in online business, that's what people are looking for. They're like, no, like, I want to break all the rules, the status quo. Like, I want to do all this. And then it's like, can you give me a very set plan on how to do that I can follow over and over? And it's like, that's not what being an entrepreneur is, right? Like, it's going to be different for your business because you're different. So, every client I've worked with, whether it was like intensive or like longer term one-on-one, and we worked on launch plan, it's like, theirs may look totally different than mine, or theirs may be very similar to mine, just depending, right, on what they're actually offering, what they're putting out there. So let's just kind of like let go of this cookie cutter, like every launch is the same, because when you start to customize it to your business and your needs is when you see the real results that you are looking for. So know that no matter what option you take, from, these, we went over 5 different ones, whatever option you take for your plan, I want you to give yourself 2 weeks before you start that day one, okay? And the reason why is because this gives you a chance to see what your sign up or engagement rate is. So if you are giving yourself 2 weeks of promoting an opt-in, then you can see if that opt-in is doing well or not. So is it giving you the conversions that you're looking for as far as people that are starting to sign up during the funnel? Or maybe you're sharing that opt-in, you're like, whoa, the cost of these ads is insane. I need to change the opt-in, or I need to change the wording, on the copy. It gives you time to play with that before day one of anything. If you're doing your social media series, like, how can you get people's emails so like they get notified of when the series starts? Do that for 2 weeks, just so that you can see, like, are people even signing up? Because if they're not, we need to change this, or we need to bump up our copy, or, make those edits. So I always suggest 2 weeks out, and especially if you're running paid traffic to any of these things. Again, just because it doesn't mean things are going to work for the first time, which is where like a lot of my strategic brain starts to come in, just because, if we're in a few days in and it's like, hold on, this isn't working, cut it. We need to change something quickly, right? Or if we're going through and we're like, wow, this is looking good. This is it. All right, let's keep amping this up for the next 2 weeks. Like, let's just keep building that momentum, in advance. Where I see a lot of people, they set, I'm going to do a webinar, or I'm going to do a challenge, or, whatever they want the driver of their launch to be. They're like, okay, awesome. And they start promoting it 3 or 4 days before, but you haven't really given a chance for anyone to see it. So that leaves you maybe the chance to do 1 or 2 emails to your list about what you have coming up. That gives you a chance for a couple social media posts. And we all know we're going against like the algorithm and different things like that. So people need to see things more than once, because they're not just looking for your posts all day, right? It gives you that time. So make sure as you're doing your launch plan, and I don't even think I can screen share on here. If so, I would show you an example of mine, but if anything, I'll just like screenshot it and like put it in the comments after we get off. But when I'm writing out my launch plan, I always go, okay, like, what day do I want the cart to open, which is essentially going to be the end of whatever my driver is. So what day do I want my cart open? Okay, before that is my driver. So am I running a webinar? Am I running, a 5-day challenge? Whatever, is going on that week before. And then I go 2 weeks before that is just promo. So I have the first 2 weeks is essentially promoing to the driver. And then that week is focused on whatever I'm driving people to. So the 5-day challenge, the webinar, the social media series, the email funnel, right? It's like, okay, this is when this takes off. And then we open the cart, right after that driver is over. So whether it's on the webinar, it's, the last few days of the challenge, those kind of things, then I know, okay, now cart is opening, and we could talk about that in the next part of this series here this month. So making sure that you're giving yourself enough time. Just a week, I've done it in just a week as far as like promoting to the driver. And to be honest, it's not really enough. And it doesn't feel good, right? So if anything goes wrong, and let's face it, like you're in business, everything is not going to always be like perfect and smooth and all that. And if I said it was, I'd be totally lying to you and not in integrity. So if something goes wrong, you're like, that's all right. That's why we gave ourselves time, right? And when you're mapping out your launch strategy, make sure you give yourself that time so that you can redirect if you need to. If you don't need to, awesome, right? Like you're just going to keep getting more people, right? Because you gave yourself enough time. If you need to redirect, great. You could still hit your goal of how many people you want coming into this driver for your launch, but you gave yourself time in order to do that without like completely stressing yourself out. So give yourself that time and go, okay, now what do I have available to get people into this driver? So is it going to be organic traffic? So during those 2 weeks, are you sending emails to your list? And I don't care if your list has like 5 people or if it has 5,000, send it to your list, right? They're already warm market people. Make sure you let them know about what you have going on. So sending out to them, if you have a Facebook group, sharing it with your group. If you are using other Facebook groups, like if that's part of your strategy, then, on their promo days, obviously make sure it goes in the rules of the group. Put it in those groups that, hey, I have a webinar or a challenge or a social series or whatever coming up. I'd love to have you be a part of it. So you're sharing that. If you are doing any kind of live streams, just continue to talk about topics during those 2 weeks that have to do with your offer, which you're doing anyway, because that's part of your prep plan. And when you do it, just put a link, right under the video that says, hey, join the XYZ webinar. Click here, right? And it's the link. Or, hey, sign up to get updates for the social media XYZ series. You're going to be able to link them right there because this starts to get that momentum going during those 2 weeks before your driver hits, day one. So you have that option to lead them right in it as well. So also I'll focus more on my list. Okay, yep. And if you guys have any questions, I know I'm like talking, I'm sure like a million miles a minute. I'm told it's a Northeast thing. I don't know. But feel free to put them in the comments. If you're on the replay too, that's totally fine, so that we can work on, figuring out your custom launch plan and what to expect as you're launching, how to make this easy for you so that, yes, you're putting in the work, but you're doing work in a way that doesn't have to feel overwhelming or struggle. It's just a lot of times you don't know the behind the scenes that you need to set up in order to do that, right? So like the strategy behind it so that you can have a successful launch, so that it can feel good for you and it really serves your audience in the right way. So that's what you're here to do, and this is going to allow us to do that during that launch. So you're giving yourself those 2 weeks, you're sending to your list, you're using Facebook groups, you're using social media. If you have affiliates, obviously you're giving them that same content so they can put it out to their audience as well. And everyone's working on, okay, we're just getting people over to this launch driver. So we're getting them over to the social media series, the opt-in, the webinar, the 5-day challenge, whatever you have decided to do within your business, you're leading them right to that. You're giving yourself 2 weeks. And this doesn't matter if it's paid or organic, right? You're going to be able to do that. We went over organic ways to share that. And of course, if you're doing paid and you're running ads directly to, your challenge, your opt-in or anything like that, great. Like that gives you another way and to get more people in, right? And of course you can target. So I love that. Like I am definitely a pro paid traffic kind of person. Like I love it as long as you're in the right place of your business for it, right? And that was a big thing with like, even in the Achiever Circle, it's like, we want to make sure we talk about those numbers and ROI because most people start ads when they don't quite have the money to sustain ads, like it's a little too early for them. They haven't tried it organically yet, and then they're trying to figure that out on top of a launch, and that's never fun, right? So don't feel like you have to force yourself into paid ads. I'm just in a spot in my business where, yes, like I've done the organic stuff and I love paid, and I just kind of stack them on top of each other. But every business is different. So if you don't have either the budget or you have no idea what the heck you're doing with Facebook ads, then just do it organically. You know, you can do that. There's plenty of sources out there, and you're sharing on social media and then bringing them in for your launch. So you have that option as well. You're promoting 2 weeks in advance. You can see what's working, what's not, and then you kick off exactly what you promised them. So you start your webinar, right? Like you host it. You start your 5-day group. You start your social media series. You have your funnel now running. They opted in and now they're starting to go through the funnel that leads to the launch. And this is how you get them over to the cart opening, which is going to be the last phase of your launch. And what we're going to dive into next week is really making sure that, okay, now that they've consumed the driver of your launch, right? So they got this awesome free content, they got value from it, right? You hosted your challenge or your webinar or anything like that. Now let's make sure they're aware that the next step is here, it's open, and it's going to be closing. So we'll talk more about strategy around that next week. And if you have any questions, just pop them down here in the chat, either about this episode, or if you're looking for next week's episode and you have questions about like anything between cart open and cart close when it comes to a launch, you can put them here and they'll just help guide me of what to cover with you guys next week. So thank you so much for joining, and I am looking forward to continuing on with Achievers Live next week, where we'll go into your cart open to cart close of your launch and really keep this momentum going as you continue within your business. So I will see you there, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.